Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, dear colleagues, politicians and musicians and artists like me. May I start a little bit more, introduce with me, because I really have a musical background, but now I am MP and Secretary of Budget Committee of Latvian Parliament. That's not my most occupation now. So, and it is both a true pleasure and honor to be here back in Berlin, the Institute of Cultural Diplomacy, and to share with you some of my contemplations about the topic that, due to various critical factors, has once again frequently been included in the international political agenda. How we can carry out change without creating chaos and integrate people with different backgrounds in one community, but also keep in our tradition and values. That's, I think, the last speaker. Yes, that's very interesting that my topic is a little bit different, but yes, we have some ties with this because now you see what happened when the people before the electing such powerful and arrogant leaders, what's happened later. I thought it would be interesting to look at this question from the viewpoint of music. And that is probably not by accident. I have been closely related to this art still childhood, and I have played in various symphony orchestras, managed them, read classes at the Academy of Music, and I still perform as a solo artist and a member of different chamber ensembles. For a couple of years, I was a Minister of Culture, which broadened my knowledge and experience even more. So, through the centuries, music has played a crucial role in the development processes of society. It has been an important medium of information and an effective tool for evoking emotions in times of change. It would be difficult to talk about the effects of a single musical composition or composer in the ancient or medieval world, but since the age of Enlightenment, when the first ideas and concepts related to universal human rights were introduced, the situation in Western culture changed. In the first half of the 19th century, the works of Beethoven, Berlioz, several Italian opera composers, and of course Richard Wagner, resonated greatly in the more progressive part of the society right after the performing first time. I will leave the making of a more comprehensive list of the similar occurrences to historians or other researchers, but I do want to add that I have lived through the so-called singing revolution in my homeland, which allowed Latvia to finally regain its independence in early years of 1990s. And I can honestly say I am grateful I had the opportunity to be a part of this process. However, music hasn't always had a positive role in the moments of global and local change. Many political regimes and their leaders, which are justly viewed as a controversial figures in world history, have also used the power of music to mobilize the negative and destructive energy that lies in people. In my childhood, which unfortunately was spent in the time of Soviet occupation, most music which had been created in the wrong place, or, God forbid, more the ideas or individual national freedom or even a political message was forbidden. Obviously, the ideological leaders of the regime acknowledged the universal power of music. However, different researchers suggest that one of the driving factors for political change and the spread of liberal values was in fact the development of rock music, especially in our Baltic states. The forbidden fruit has always been the most seductive. Therefore, the freedom ideas that were embedded in local and imported modern music could not be stopped from spreading for any formal bans. So nowadays, after the triumph of record technology, music has gained an even stronger global influence. From basic vinyl record technology to modern cloud platforms like Spotify, music can now be listened to by an unlimited number of listeners all around the world right after it has been produced. We are currently only a few minutes walk away from the Berliner Philharmonie, which is viewed as the most important center for modern academic music and where resides an orchestra with its members coming from 28 different countries. And I am as representative of academic music, therefore it seems absolutely clear that I must talk about things that academic music can bring to the understanding of global society today, when many values of humanity, including basic human rights, are questioned and underestimated. Unfortunately, we must acknowledge that many Western democracies, especially the so-called new democracies, currently see the rise of nationalist and populist movements which popularize xenophobic, homophobic, and overtly racist ideas. Therefore, we who don't wish to see the world going down that destructive path again must rethink the causes that have led to this situation, the mistakes that have been made, and if possible, the steps necessary to stop the society from returning to the house that the leadership of hateful, arrogant, and charismatic populist leaders create. There may not be just one simple answer to these questions, the same as there is no one ready receipt for further action. But I believe that the task of politician is not only asking questions, but also providing answers for discussion and directions for the further action, even if they do not seem perfect at first. So, I will share my thoughts with you. In the last 30 years, the prominent Western politicians, led by rather favorable motives, have carried out a policy which has not taken in account the natural ability of a large part of the society to absorb in its collective consciousness the sudden changes in its age, welfare, national and cultural structure. The changes have simply occurred too rapidly for the society to be prepared, and now we are receiving a massive counter-reaction which cannot be blamed on the clueless people. Apparently, we who are in charge of decision-making in our countries need to carry out a safer and more considerate policy, taking in consideration the previously mentioned society's ability to absorb changes. If not, we can find ourselves on the doorstep of the global catastrophe, which we have so far been successfully able to avoid in the recent past. I certainly do not encourage you to give in to extremism, but in the process of decision-making, do take into consideration people's age-old natural wish to identify themselves with a certain community and live in familiar, understandable, and acceptable conditions. Returning to the analogy of music, the aforementioned Berlin Philharmonic Orchestra, which has been a symbol of German culture for decades, very conservative and self-sufficient, and even 50 years ago consisting only of German men, proves to us that by being grounded in excellent tradition and carrying out changes in a very considerate but consequent manner, it can be an example of good politics, an example of how to include musicians of various nations, religions, political views, and genders, who all have one goal, the same as all art does: to make the world better. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. As usual, if you are prepared, we would like to ask the audience whether they have any comments or questions.
Okay, very nice.
Fine. Okay.
More interesting.
Any question or any comment?
Everything is clear.
Everything is properly understood. It means that you were very clear in the presentation of your ideas. Thank you very much.
Thank you.